The abandoned alien girl had given up. Until humans showed their true nature. The escape pod drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space. Inside, Lyra struggled to breathe as the oxygen levels continued to drop. Her blue skin had turned pale, and her large eyes blinked slowly in the dim emergency lighting. The control panel in front of her flashed red warnings she could barely see anymore. Emergency power at 12%, the pod's computer announced in her native language. Oxygen levels critical. Life support failing. Lyra's thin fingers moved weakly across the control panel, trying one more time to boost the distress signal. Her own people had left her behind. They had abandoned her when the research mission went wrong. Now, she was alone, forgotten, and dying. She looked out the small window at the endless stars. Her four-fingered hand pressed against the cold glass as tears formed in her large, purple eyes. The creatures from her home world did not cry often, but when they did, their tears glowed with a soft light. The tiny droplets floated in the low gravity of the failing pod, creating small points of light around her. "I don't want to die alone," she whispered. The memories flooded back as her strength faded. Her commander's final words echoed in her mind, "Your sacrifice will be remembered." But Lyra knew the truth. They had left her behind because she was expendable. She was just a young science officer, barely an adult by her species standards. They had promised to return with help, but Lyra knew they had lied. Her breathing became more labored as the oxygen thinned. The emergency beacon continued sending its weak signal into the void. No one would hear it. No one would come. Her people had already jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading back to their home system. The pod's computer spoke again, warning. Unknown vessel detected. Lyra's eyes opened wide. Had her people returned after all? Hope sparked in her heart for the first time in days. The small screen on the control panel showed a ship approaching. But as the image became clearer, Lyra's hope turned to terror. The ship was not from her world. Its design was completely different, boxy, utilitarian, with strange markings on its hull. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Not them." The ship was human. Every child on Lyra's world grew up hearing stories about humans. The dangerous predators from the blue planet. The species that fought endless wars against their own kind. The monsters who had wiped out an entire alien colony during first contact because of a misunderstanding. Humans were feared throughout this part of the galaxy. Their strength, their aggression, their unpredictability made them dangerous. And now, a human ship had found her when she was completely helpless. The pod shuddered as something locked onto its hull. Lyra tried to move, tried to find something to use as a weapon, but she was too weak. The oxygen was too thin. Black spots danced in her vision. "Emergency airlock override detected," the computer announced. This was it. The humans would open her pod and find her. Would they kill her quickly? Would they take her prisoner? The stories said humans sometimes did experiments on aliens they captured. Lyra's people had never established formal contact with humans, choosing instead to avoid them whenever possible. A loud hiss filled the pod as the airlock began to open. Lyra pressed herself against the far wall, her heart racing. The inner door slid open slowly, revealing two figures in bulky spacesuits. Humans. They seemed enormous to Lyra, who stood only 4 feet tall when healthy. Now, curled up against the wall, she looked even smaller. The humans stepped into the pod, their helmet lights blinding her sensitive eyes. One of them spoke, the sound muffled through their helmet but still harsh to Lyra's ears. She couldn't understand their language, but their tone seemed urgent. The second human pointed some kind of device at her, and Lyra closed her eyes, waiting for the end. Instead, the human knelt down beside her and reached out slowly. Lyra flinched away, but she was too weak to move far. To her surprise, the human didn't grab her or hurt her. Instead, they gently placed something over her face, an oxygen mask designed for their kind. It was too big for her small features, but immediately, she could breathe easier. The second human spoke into a device on their wrist. More words Lyra couldn't understand. Were they calling for more humans? Were they telling others they had found an alien? The first human reached out again, this time touching Lyra's arm gently. Through the thick glove of the space suit, Lyra could feel the warmth. The human pointed to themselves, then to the open airlock, then back to Lyra. They wanted to take her with them. Lyra's mind raced. Did she have a choice? Stay here and die for certain, or go with these humans and face an unknown fate? Maybe they would kill her later, or maybe they just wanted to study her. Either way, it meant living a little longer. The pod's computer spoke one final time, emergency power failing. Life support terminated. The choice was made for her. As the last of the oxygen vanished, Lyra felt strong arms lift her small body. The human cradled her against their chest and carried her through the airlock. The last thing Lyra saw before losing consciousness was the inside of the human ship, all metal and flashing lights, so different from the organic curves and soft glow of her people's vessels. When Lyra woke up, she was lying on a strange bed. The room around her was bright with artificial light that hurt her eyes. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy and strange. Something was attached to her arm, a tube leading to a bag of clear liquid. Humans stood nearby, talking among themselves. Without their helmets, Lyra could see their faces for the first time. They looked so alien to her, flat faces with small eyes, strange patches of hair, and skin in various shades of brown and pink. They wore matching uniforms with patches and symbols Lyra didn't recognize. One of them noticed she was awake. The human approached slowly, hands held up in what Lyra hoped was a peaceful gesture. This human was smaller than the others, with long dark hair tied back. The human smiled, showing white teeth, another predator trait that made Lyra tremble. The human pointed to themselves and said a word slowly, "Doctor." Lyra didn't understand. Was this their name? Their rank? A greeting? The human repeated the word, then pointed to the medical equipment around the room. "Doctor. Help. Help." That word Lyra recognized from old translation archives she had studied. The human was trying to communicate that they were helping her. But why? Why would humans help an alien? Everything Lyra had been taught said humans were dangerous, selfish creatures who only cared about their own kind. Yet here she was, being given oxygen, medicine, and care. Nothing made sense anymore. Lyra's own people had abandoned her, leaving her to die alone. And these supposedly monstrous humans had saved her life. As more humans entered the room to look at her, Lyra felt fear, confusion, and, strangest of all, a tiny spark of hope. Maybe the stories about humans weren't entirely true. Or maybe they were just keeping her alive for some darker purpose. Either way, Lyra was no longer dying alone in space. For now, that would have to be enough. Days passed on the human ship. Lyra learned that it was called the Horizon, a research vessel with a crew of 30 humans. They had been mapping an uncharted asteroid field when they detected her distress signal. The ship's captain, a tall woman named Martinez, had ordered the rescue without hesitation. Lyra still didn't understand why. Why would humans risk their own safety for an unknown alien? It didn't match any of the stories she had been told since childhood. The human doctor, whose name was Kim, visited Lyra's room several times each day. Dr. Kim spoke slowly and used hand gestures to try to communicate. She brought different devices to check Lyra's health and seemed pleased with her recovery. Lyra's blue skin had returned to its normal vibrant color, and her strength was slowly coming back. On the 5th day, Dr. Kim entered the room with a small device in her hand. She placed it on the table between them and pressed a button. The device lit up with a soft blue glow. Translator, Dr. Kim said clearly, pointing to the device. Talk. Understand. Lyra looked at the strange machine with suspicion. On her world, technology was viewed with caution. But curiosity won out. She leaned forward and spoke in her native language, a series of melodic clicks and whistles. I am Lyra, science officer from the research vessel Luminous Wave. The device hummed for a moment, then a mechanical voice spoke in what Lyra assumed was the human language. Dr. Kim's eyes widened in surprise. The translator works, Dr. Kim said excitedly. The device immediately converted her words to Lyra's language. Why did you save me? Lyra asked the question that had been burning in her mind since she woke up on the human ship. Dr. Kim's expression changed, looking confused. Why wouldn't we save you? You were dying. My people say humans are dangerous. That you kill aliens. Dr. Kim sat down slowly, her face showing sadness. There have been misunderstandings in the past. But we're explorers, not killers. We couldn't leave you to die. Before Lyra could respond, the door opened and Captain Martinez entered. She was wearing a crisp uniform with symbols Lyra now recognized as rank insignia. The captain nodded politely to Lyra. I see our guest is awake and talking. Good. Her words came through the translator with only a slight delay. I'm Captain Elena Martinez of the Earth Science vessel Horizon. We're glad you're recovering. Lyra lowered her head in a gesture of respect from her culture. I am Lyra of the Luminous Wave. I thank you for saving my life. The words felt strange to say. Thanking humans went against everything she had been taught. But they had saved her when her own people had left her behind. Can you tell us what happened? Captain Martinez asked. Why were you alone in that damaged pod? Lyra's large purple eyes darkened with memory. Our mission was to study the asteroid field. We detected strange energy readings. My commander ordered me to investigate using a small probe pod. But something went wrong. There was a disruption in space. A flash of light. When it cleared, my pod systems were failing, and the luminous wave was preparing to jump to light speed. They left you? Dr. Kim asked, her voice soft with shock. I heard them say they would send help, but... Lyra's voice trailed off. My people value the group over the individual. One life is not worth risking many. Captain Martinez frowned. That's not how we operate. We don't leave our people behind. The door opened again, and another human entered. This one was tall with dark skin and short hair. He carried a tray of containers. Thought our guest might be hungry, he said with a friendly smile that still made Lyra nervous. Those teeth looked so predatory. I'm Chief Wilson, ship's cook. I checked with Dr. Kim about what might be safe for your system. He placed the tray on the table. It contained several small bowls with different colored substances. Lyra's stomach rumbled. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until now. It's food, Dr. Kim explained through the translator. We analyzed your biology and tried to create compatible nutrients. Lyra looked at the food cautiously. In her weakened state, she hadn't thought about the possibility of poison. What if this was all an elaborate trap? What if the humans were just keeping her alive to extract information? As if reading her thoughts, Chief Wilson picked up a spoon and tasted a small amount from each bowl. It's safe, he said. Just might taste strange to you. This gesture surprised Lyra. She carefully picked up one of the bowls, a blue paste that smelled vaguely familiar. When she tasted it, her eyes widened. It was sweet and reminded her of a fruit that grew on her homeworld. Good? Chief Wilson asked, smiling. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes. Thank you. After eating, Lyra felt stronger. Captain Martinez explained that they would continue their mission but would try to find a way to contact Lyra's people or take her to a neutral space station where she might find help. Until then, the captain said, you're welcome to stay with us. Once Dar. Kim clears you medically, you can move to guest quarters and learn about our ship. Lyra didn't know how to respond. The humans were offering her shelter, food, and protection, things her own people had denied her. It didn't make sense according to everything she had been taught. That night, alone in her room, Lyra looked out a small window at the stars. She thought about her people, about the stories they told of dangerous humans. She thought about how quickly they had abandoned her. And she thought about Dr. Kim's gentle hands, Chief Wilson's kindness, and Captain Martinez's offer of help. The humans had saved her life. But more than that, they had treated her with respect and dignity. They had asked for nothing in return. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Kim entered with a small device in her hand. "I brought you this," she said through the translator. "It's a personal data pad. It has information about Earth and humans. I thought you might want to learn more about us." Lyra took the device carefully. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Dr. Kim seemed surprised by the question. "Because that's what we do. We help each other. It doesn't matter if you're human or alien." After Dr. Kim left, Lyra activated the data pad. Images of Earth filled the screen, blue oceans, green forests, towering cities, and humans of all shapes and colors. There were also images of other alien species, some Lyra recognized and some she didn't, all interacting peacefully with humans. Everything she had been taught about humans was being challenged. The monsters from her childhood stories were nothing like these people who had saved her, fed her, and now wanted to teach her. As Lyra scrolled through the images, she felt something she hadn't expected: curiosity. These humans were strange and different, yes, but they were also fascinating. Maybe there was more to learn about them than what her people's stories had told. Tomorrow, she would begin exploring the human ship. Tomorrow, she would start learning the truth about these creatures that were supposed to be monsters but had shown her only kindness. A week later, Lyra walked the corridors of the horizon with growing confidence. Dr. Kim had finally cleared her to leave the medical bay, and she now had small quarters of her own. The humans had modified a room for her, adjusting the temperature and gravity to match what her species preferred. Captain Martinez had assigned Ensign Patel, a young human with warm brown skin and a ready smile, to be Lyra's guide. Today, they were heading to the ship's bridge for the first time. "The captain thinks you might be able to help us understand some readings we're getting from the asteroid field," Ensign Patel explained as they walked. The translator device, now smaller and attached to Lyra's wrist, converted his words instantly. "I will try," Lyra said. "I was trained as a science officer." As they entered the bridge, several humans turned to look at her. Some smiled, others simply nodded before returning to their work. Lyra still found their expressions hard to read, but she was learning. The bridge was smaller than she expected, a circular room with control panels along the walls and a large viewscreen showing the starfield ahead. Captain Martinez stood from her command chair. "Welcome to the bridge, Lyra. How are you feeling today?" "Better, thank you," Lyra replied. The respectful way the captain addressed her still felt strange. On her own ship, Lyra had been the lowest-ranking officer, barely acknowledged by her superiors. "Good. We could use your expertise." The captain gestured to a screen showing complex energy patterns. "We've detected unusual fluctuations in this region. Similar to what you described encountering before your pod was damaged." Lyra moved closer to the screen, her large eyes widening. The patterns were familiar. "These are spatial fractures. Very dangerous. My people call them star wounds. They appear randomly and can disrupt ship systems or even tear a vessel apart." "Can they be predicted?" asked the science officer, a tall human named Dr. Chen. "Not easily," Lyra said. "But there are warning signs. May I?" She gestured to the control panel. Dr. Chen nodded and stepped aside. The controls were different from what Lyra was used to, but the principles were similar. Her four-fingered hands moved across the panel, adjusting settings and focusing the sensors. "There," she said finally. "Do you see this pattern? It repeats just before a fracture forms." Dr. Chen leaned close, his eyes bright with interest. "Fascinating. We completely missed that signature." Captain Martinez stepped forward. "Can we use this to avoid these fractures?" "Yes," Lyra said. "If you detect this pattern, change course immediately. The fracture will form within minutes." As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the bridge. The tactical officer called out, "Captain! Energy spike directly ahead. Full stop." Captain Martinez ordered. "Prepare to change course." But before the helmsman could respond, the view screen flashed with blinding light. The ship shuddered violently. Lyra lost her balance and fell against Dr. Chen, who caught her before she hit the floor. "Spatial fracture." Lyra cried out. It formed too quickly. The lights flickered and consoles sparked. An explosion rocked the far side of the bridge, sending 2 crew members flying from their stations. Dr. Chen rushed to help them while Captain Martinez barked orders. "Engineering. Status report." Through the chaos, Lyra heard someone say the engines were offline. Cold fear gripped her heart. This was how it had started on her pod, systems failing after a fracture hit. Would these humans abandon their injured crew as her people had abandoned her? But Captain Martinez was already organizing rescue teams, sending medics to injured crew members, and calling for damage reports. No one was being left behind. "Lyra," the captain called. "We need your help. These fractures, can they happen in chains? Could more be coming?" Lyra pushed aside her fear and focused. "Yes. Sometimes one leads to another. We need to scan for the pattern I showed you, but in multiple directions now. Our main sensors are down," Dr. Chen said, returning from helping the injured crew members. "We have only basic functions." Lyra thought quickly. "The pattern shows up in visual spectrum too, if you know what to look for. Can I access your visual sensors?" The captain nodded, and Dr. Chen led Lyra to an auxiliary station. Working together, they reconfigured the remaining sensors. Lyra's knowledge of the fractures combined with Dr. Chen's understanding of the ship systems created a solution neither could have managed alone. "There." Lyra pointed to a shimmer in space, barely visible on the screen. "Another fracture is forming there, about 20 kilometers to starboard. Thrusters only." Captain Martinez ordered. "Move us away from that position, now." The ship slowly turned away from the danger, using emergency thrusters since the main engines were offline. Moments later, another flash lit up space where they would have been. For the next 2 hours, Lyra worked side by side with the human crew, predicting fractures and helping the ship avoid them while repair teams worked to restore power. The humans listened to her warnings without question, treating her as one of their own. When the danger finally passed and the engines were back online, Captain Martinez called the crew together on the bridge. "Thanks to everyone's quick thinking, we survived with minimal casualties. Dr. Kim reports all injured crew will recover." The captain's eyes found Lyra. "And we owe special thanks to our guest, who saved many lives today with her knowledge." The humans around the bridge began to clap their hands together, a gesture Lyra had learned meant approval. Some nodded at her with respect in their eyes. Dr. Chen placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're a natural scientist," he said. Those observations were brilliant. Lyra felt strange emotions rising within her. On her own ship, her observations had often been dismissed because of her junior status. Here, among these supposed monsters, her knowledge was valued. She had been useful. She had helped save lives. That evening, Lyra was invited to join several crew members in what they called the mess hall. The large room was filled with tables where humans ate together, talked, and even laughed. Chief Wilson had prepared special food for her, and Ensign Patel waved her over to join a table with Dr. Chen and others from the bridge crew. As they ate, the humans asked about her world, her people, and her training. They seemed genuinely interested in her answers. When she asked why their species explored space, their responses surprised her. "Curiosity," said Dr. Chen. "To learn and grow," added Ensign Patel. "To find others like you," Chief Wilson said with a smile, "and maybe discover we're not so different after all." Lyra thought about her own people's reasons for space travel, mostly resource collection and territorial expansion. The human perspective seemed so different, so much more open. After dinner, Lyra returned to her quarters and looked at herself in the mirror. The same blue skin, large purple eyes, and slender frame looked back at her. But something had changed. The fear that had lived in her heart since childhood whenever humans were mentioned was gone. Instead, she felt something new, belonging. These humans had made her part of their crew, even if just for a day. They had trusted her knowledge and her judgment. They had saved each other during the crisis, working together without regard for rank or even species. For the first time since being rescued, Lyra allowed herself to fully believe that maybe, just maybe, the stories about humans being monsters were wrong. And if those stories were wrong, what else about her world's teachings might be false? As she drifted off to sleep, a new worry replaced the old one. The Horizon was continuing its mission but would eventually return to human space. What would happen to her then? Would she ever see her home again? And after everything she had learned, did she even want to? 3 weeks after her rescue, Lyra stood by the large observation window as the Horizon approached Nexus Station. The massive space station hung against the backdrop of stars like a shining wheel, with ships of various designs docking at its many ports. "Impressive, isn't it?" Captain Martinez said, joining Lyra at the window. "Nexus is one of our busiest stations. Ships from over 20 different species dock here for trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange." Lyra's eyes widened as she spotted a familiar design among the docked vessels. "That ship, it's from my world." The captain followed her gaze. "Yes. We've had limited contact with your people, the Cerulean, for about 15 years. Mostly trade agreements through neutral parties." "My people come here?" Lyra asked in disbelief. All her life, she had been taught that humans were to be avoided at all costs. "Not many, but some. Relations are improving slowly." The captain's voice turned serious. "Lyra, I need to tell you something. When we detected your people's ship at the station, we sent a message about your rescue. They've asked to meet with you upon our arrival." Lyra felt her heart race. "They know I'm alive. They want me back. They've sent representatives," Captain Martinez said carefully. "I wanted to prepare you before we dock. The choice will be yours, you can return to your people if you wish, or other arrangements can be made." Lyra stared out at the station, thoughts swirling in her mind. For weeks, she had lived among humans, learning their ways, helping in the science lab with Dr. Chen, even making friends with Ensign Patel and others. The monsters from her childhood stories had become real people, complex, flawed, but fundamentally good. "Thank you for telling me," Lyra said finally. "I need time to think." The captain nodded respectfully and left Lyra alone with her thoughts. 2 hours later, the Horizon docked at Nexus Station. The crew prepared for shore leave, excited for a break from ship duties. Lyra stayed in her quarters, trying to decide what to do. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "May I come in?" Dr. Kim's voice called. Lyra opened the door to find not only Dr. Kim but also Dr. Chen, Ensign Patel, Chief Wilson, and Captain Martinez. They entered carrying a small package. "We wanted to see you before the meeting with your people's representatives," Dr. Kim explained. Chief Wilson stepped forward with the package. "We made something for you." Inside was a uniform similar to what the Horizon's crew wore, but sized for Lyra's smaller frame and with colors that matched her homeworld's traditional science division. "If you choose to stay with your people, that's your right," Captain Martinez said. "But if you want to continue working with us, there's a place for you here. Your knowledge of spatial anomalies has been invaluable, and you've become part of our crew." Tears formed in Lyra's eyes, glowing softly in the room's light. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to decide now," Dr. Chen added kindly. "But whatever you choose, we wanted you to know that you belong here if you want to." The meeting with the Cerulean representatives was scheduled in a neutral conference room on Nexus Station. Lyra chose to wear her new uniform. Captain Martinez accompanied her as a diplomatic courtesy. 3 Ceruleans waited in the room, their blue skin a shade darker than Lyra's, marking them as high-ranking officials. Lyra recognized one immediately, Commander Sylvan, her former superior on the luminous wave. "Science Officer Lyra," Commander Sylvan said formally in their native language. "We are just surprised to find you alive." "No thanks to you," Captain Martinez said through her translator. "Your ship left her to die." Commander Sylvan's large eyes narrowed. "This matter is between Lyra and her people. Human interference is not welcome." "I'm here as Lyra's friend and captain," Martinez replied firmly. "She served aboard my ship with distinction." "Served?" another Cerulean official asked sharply. "You made her work for her rescue?" "No," Lyra spoke up, her voice stronger than she expected. "I chose to help when the ship was in danger. The humans saved me without asking for anything in return." Commander Sylvan studied her new uniform with disapproval. "You appear to have forgotten where your loyalties lie, Science Officer." "I haven't forgotten anything," Lyra replied. "Including how quickly the luminous wave abandoned me." "A necessary sacrifice for the greater good," Commander Sylvan said dismissively. "We detected dangerous anomalies and had to protect the ship and its valuable research. We would have sent help if possible." "But you didn't," Lyra said. "These humans, whom you taught me to fear as monsters, risked their lives to save me, a stranger." The third Cerulean official, an older female, spoke softly. "Lyra, we understand you may have developed attachments during your time with these humans. But you belong with your own kind. We have come to bring you home." Captain Martinez placed a hand gently on Lyra's shoulder. "This is Lyra's choice. No one else's." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Lyra. She looked at the Cerulean officials, representatives of everything she had known before the rescue. Then she looked at Captain Martinez, who stood beside her not as a superior, but as an equal. "I've learned something important during my time with humans," Lyra said finally. "True belonging isn't about where you come from or what you look like. It's about who values you, who respects you, and who stands by you when you need help." She straightened her uniform proudly. "I choose to stay with the Horizon crew." Commander Sylvan's face darkened with anger. "This is outrageous. You would betray your own species for these creatures." "I'm not betraying anyone," Lyra responded calmly. "I'm choosing where I can do the most good, where my skills are valued. The humans have shown me more respect in a few weeks than I received in years of service to our people." The older Cerulean official raised a hand to silence Commander Sylvan's protest. "This is unexpected. But perhaps informative." She turned to Captain Martinez. "Your protection of our citizen, even against our own people, suggests our understanding of humans may be incomplete." Captain Martinez nodded. "We would welcome the opportunity to improve relations between our species. Perhaps Lyra could help bridge that gap." "Perhaps," the older official agreed cautiously. "We will report this development to our council." As the meeting concluded, Commander Sylvan glared at Lyra one last time before leaving. The older official lingered, however. "Are you certain of this choice, young one?" she asked Lyra privately. "I am," Lyra replied. "I've discovered that monsters aren't always what they seem. Sometimes they're just different people we haven't tried to understand." The official studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then perhaps you have found your true purpose. Teach us what you learn about these humans. Help us see what you see. Back on the horizon, Lyra stood once more at the observation window. The ship was preparing to depart Nexus Station for its next mission. Behind her, crew members moved through their duties, calling friendly greetings as they passed. Dr. Chen approached with a datapad. Ready for our shift in the lab. We're analyzing those fracture patterns you identified. Ensign Patel joined them, grinning. And after that, movie night in the rec room. We're showing Lyra her first Earth comedy. Lyra looked at her friends, her new family. Then she looked out at the stars stretching endlessly before them. Somewhere out there were answers to questions she hadn't even thought to ask yet. And somewhere, perhaps, were other abandoned souls who needed to learn what she had learned, that family could be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes what we fear most is exactly what we need. I'm ready, she said, turning away from the window toward her future. Let's get to work.